Hey, welcome to my channel. My name's Dan Stewart, also known as the Weekend Smoker, and this is the inaugural brisket of the season. Here in Canada, the snow has just melted. It's Easter weekend, and I'm going to do up a brisket for the entire family. So first thing we're going to do is we have to trim the brisket. I am not a championship smoking guy, so I will be trimming this to work for a family situation, which probably leaves a little more of the fat on and doesn't quite trim it down to what the championship smoker guys would do. So let me show you how to trim a brisket. Okay, so here we've got an 18-pound beauty from Costco, and what I got to do is I have to trim it up to get rid of a lot of the fat that wouldn't even render in the smoker anyway. There's been a lot of conversation around, what type of knife do you use, and what have you. From my vantage point, the key element for the knife is that it just needs to be sharp. I know that there's a lot of people out there that would suggest that you need to use a thinner knife, something that you might use to fillet a fish or what have you, right? I just use my regular knife here. It's super sharp. It does the job. So the brisket is made up of sort of the flat and the point. And this is the side with the least amount of fat. And I will do a little bit of trimming here to just, sort of clean this up. And then we'll flip the thing over and we'll do a lot of cutting on the other side because there's a, pretty thick level of fat on the other side that does need to be dealt with. So let's just get going here and we'll sort of saw a little bit of this stuff off and, just to sort of tidy it up a bit. Actually, this one came from Costco in pretty good shape, to tell you the truth. Generally, there's a lot more work that you have to do to these things. So, this one doesn't require a lot of effort on this side. This big chunk in here, obviously, that needs to go. That's just never gonna, work well in the smoker. So you just, jam off all of this stuff. Not really needed. Not gonna help the outcome. Try and do this so I cut my fingers off. That would be ideal. We got this, massive chunk in here that I'm gonna sort of take a run at just to, again, not really necessary for the, for a good outcome. It's not gonna render off the meat, so you're just best to get rid of that big chunk. Just mucks up your smoker as well. Not looking too bad. Now I'm going to flip the thing over, so I can show you the other side. We'll start down on this end here, with this big gob on the end here. On this side, generally I like to leave about a 1/4 inch of the fat. You don't want to take it all off. If you take it all off, you're not going to end up with a nice juicy brisket. It's going to be too dry. And now see, I have Chester the dog here looking to maybe help me out. I don't know that that's like. Got 2 dogs hanging on me here. I'm sure they would love to help. Oh yeah, now he's got his tongue going.
It's his birthday.
Yeah, that is true. Chester is 2 years old today. So let's flip it over and we'll look at the other side just to sort of make sure we've got it, pretty good. Yeah. And maybe one more little bit here. Not too deep. Don't want to lose any of the good stuff. Okay, so we'll call this one done. And the next thing we got to do is we need to spice it up. So, yeah. So now that we got the brisket trimmed, the next thing we want to do is get the rub all prepared to put on the brisket. And, so I've got all my ingredients here, and I'll talk a little bit about that. A lot of people will buy the pre-ground black pepper. My preference is to grind it beforehand. So I'm not going to show you 15 minutes of me grinding black pepper, but that's the first thing I want to do, is get all the right amount of black pepper ground up. And you know, the rub that I'm going to make here is a slightly modified version of what would be considered a classic Texan brisket rub. So you know, we'll get to the rest of the recipe here after I break my wrist grinding black pepper. So I'm going to start now by making the rub that I'm going to put onto the brisket. I would love to say that it's an old family recipe. It's not an old family recipe. Chester, get away from that brisket. And I'll put the recipe in the description, so no need for you guys to take notes. But use some brown sugar, and I'm going to use 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar. 1/3. And here's 2/3. Part of the reason that you put the brown sugar on is to provide the customary bark that everybody likes to see on their brisket. So I'm hoping that you know, we'll be able to get this brisket barked up really, really nicely. Okay, then we go here with 4 tablespoons of paprika. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next we go with a couple of tablespoons of smoked paprika. Hope I got a couple tablespoons here to, and we'll call that, that's not really 1. There we go, call that 1. Oh, and I want to say that, yeah, it's kind of good to get the ingredients in the reasonably the right proportions, but this is barbecue, so we don't have to have it precisely in the right proportions. Next, we go with 5 teaspoons of black pepper. And I think you saw that I was grinding the black pepper. What I didn't mention was that you tend to go for a coarser grind, you know, because that's sort of the heart of any Texas rub. 2, I'm going to put in 6 because, quite frankly, I like pepper.
Big pepper guy.
Big pepper guy, that's right. I'm the big pepper guy. Next, we go with the 2 tablespoons of kosher salt. Seems like a lot of salt, but you need to have a lot of salt. Here we've got garlic powder. We'll go with 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. 2 tablespoons of the onion powder. 2. Next we go with 1.5 teaspoons of mustard. 1. We're going to go with 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper.
It's cayenne pepper.
Is it cayenne pepper?
I think so.
Is it? Next we're going to go with 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, there we go. So that's all the ingredients, and I've got my handy whisk here, and we're just going to sort of whisk this all up to a consistent level. The brown sugar tends to be a little problematic in that it gets a little lumpy, but you know, if you whisk it enough, and it doesn't have to be whisked right down to, you know, perfection, but you know, do try and get it mixed up reasonably good. I think what we'll do, we'll try and sort of just squish up some of the chunkiness here a little bit, just to get it as fine as we can, so that we can sort of have it applied nice and evenly onto the brisket. Now, when I did this batch and I was measuring out the quantities, I actually doubled up my normal recipe. So, you know, what I'll end up doing is when I apply it to the brisket, I'll be careful to not have brisket juice get into this mix, and then what you can do is you can put any that you got left over into a mason jar, and you can use it for the next time around. So look at that consistency.
It's looking better.
Yeah, it's looking pretty consistent. So next up, you know, we've got the rub all done. We've got the brisket all trimmed. And, you know, sometimes people just put the rub onto the brisket. I like to put a little bit of a binder on. You know, people that do ribs sometimes use yellow mustard. When I'm doing a brisket, you know, give it a little bit extra kick. You I'll use a Liam Perkins on the brisket. You don't have to put tons of it on, but you put a little bit on. Okay. Rub it all over the meat.
Say that with a straight face.
I know. You do want to be pretty generous with this. I see Chester is not sure that he'll like all of the stuff that's in the rub. Okay, now sort of rub it in a bit. Don't be afraid to sort of try and get it on the edges. Okay. Pour a little bit on my hand and rub it on this end. Then I think we're going to call it done. Done just means done for now, because what we're going to end up doing is we're going to wrap this up in some saran wrap right on the tray here that I've done all the work on, and I'm going to let it rest with the spices on in the refrigerator. And what we'll end up doing is that tomorrow morning we'll be taking this guy out of the fridge, we'll be unwrapping it, and we will be throwing it onto the smoker for the cooking part of the event, which is also a little less labor intensive than prep. Is actually the bulk of the work. Once the prep is done, it sits on the smoker and you let the smoker do the work. Okay, I think that's done. Drum roll, please. Okay, there we go. Good morning. This is the favorite part of my brisket cooking experience. Not really. Just after 5 a.m. and we got to get the brisket on the grill, or I'm going to have hungry people come dinner time. So we got to get her running. I'm going to turn it up to the temperature required, which is 225. And then you got to hit the ignite button. We wait for the Traeger to warm up, which should take probably another. It's cold out. Look at that. It says it's 27 degrees Fahrenheit this morning. Not really smoking type weather, but we're gonna make do. I'll tell you, my cameraman is not excited about being up at this time of day either, but we all make sacrifices for the brisket. Okay, the Traeger is warmed up. I think earlier I had said that 225. Pre-coffee, the weekend smoker should actually be set to 180. So we've adjusted it down to 180, and we're going to get rolling with putting it on the grill. Notice that I've raised the grill up one notch to get the brisket more centered. And I've got a little tray, because we're going to render some of the fat that we trimmed off the brisket. So I'm just going to throw some of that in, and I'll talk more about why I'm doing this rendering a little later. But just put it in a little tray here. Okay, so we're going to unwrap the brisket here, and the brisket's been since we spiced it up yesterday. It spent part of the day still in the refrigerator with the spices all kicking in, and then last night before we went to bed, we pulled it out and let it sit on the counter to somewhat come up to room temperature. So I'm going to put this bad boy on the grill. There on the grill, and then you take the probe. I always like to put the probe into the thickest part of the brisket here. Set this guy down, and then what I'll do is I will set up the timer and set up the probe alarm, and you'll see me do that on the Traeger on the Traeger app. So now we're going to set the timer and set the probe temperature. So for the timer, see here on the Traeger app, I'm going to set it for 6 hours. And this is the first part that we do, where you have it sort of cooking at 180. And then for the probe temperature, I'm going to set that up to 100 and I'm going to go 165. So you can see there we've got the Traeger nicely set for 165 internal probe temperature, and that should take about 6 hours. Now the other thing that I'm going to do here, boy, good thing I was setting it up on here, is I'm going to hit the feature called Super Smoke. Notice how I said that like I was at a monster truck race. Super Smoke. It's some feature that Traeger offers. Apparently it makes it smokier. So we're going to use Super Smoke. Okay, so cooking a brisket is not an exact science. 6 hours at 180 is only an estimate, and here we are north of 6 hours and we still got about 15 degrees to go on the probe. So we're going to extend the timer out by let's say another hour, and then hopefully that will get up to, you know, close to 165. Again, it doesn't have to be exactly 165, but you want to get it in that vicinity, you know, before you get going to the next step. So I'm going to take a quick look at just see what it looks like here, and then we'll shut the lid quickly. Okay, we've hit the right internal temperature, and we are ready to take the brisket off for the next stage of the brisket cooking, smoking process. Remove the probe. Pull this bad boy off. Grab a little more, and we're gonna put it on the butcher paper, which I previously ripped. Okay, so now we're going to wrap the brisket, and we use unwaxed butcher paper. So let me just sort of move this guy along a little bit. And the secret here is you want to wrap it super tight. So I've actually put two pieces together here. So pull it over that edge like that. Push it underneath. And fold it over. It's a little tricky to get this. Now we got the brisket all wrapped, it's time to put it back in the grill. I previously put it up to 225 degrees and I turned off the super smoke. No need for super smoke. When the thing is all wrapped, it's not getting any more smoke in it anyway. So let's put it back onto the grill. And again, you know, keep it fat side down. And we're going to take the probe, put the probe back in. And then we're going to shut the lid here. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to top it up with some more pellets, just to make sure that we got enough to get through the balance of the cook. The balance of the cook, theoretically, should be about another 4 hours. There we go. All set. Okay, now we're going to set the Traeger up for the new goal temperature. New goal temperature, internal probe temperature is 204. So we'll confirm that. Like I said, I had previously set it to 225. And I don't know why super smoke is on, but we're taking super smoke off. There we go. So we're all set, and we should be back here in about 4 hours and hopefully have a completed brisket. Hi, how you doing? Boom. Can you help me with the brisket? Yeah, he's gonna help me with the brisket. Brisket is coming off to rest. After 13 hours of cooking, it needs to rest. So we're gonna bring it off to rest. Oh, look at this bad boy. Oh, we're gonna bring her into rest. Bring her into rest. Don't go to fit here.
Absolute unit.
It is a unit. It is a unit. Resting. Let the brisket rest. So we've let this thing rest now for 45 minutes. And now it's time to sort of put her out to have it in mode to cut. Hang on. Oh my goodness, look at this. Look at this. Oh my goodness, look at this. Oh.
Happy Easter.
Oh, it is Happy Easter. Look at that bad boy. Oops, it broke.
That's good.
It is so tender, it broke. So here we go. This is the tallow that we rendered, and tallow is the fat. And we've just sort of let it melt down and purify here, fully smoked. And I'm gonna store it here in this mason jar, because apparently there are championship smokers that say that having the tallow available for your subsequent brisket smokes is the most awesome thing that you can have.
Chug.
I'm not chugging this stuff.
Come on.
Come on, hang on. No, I'm not doing it. Okay, so we're gonna cut it. Hopefully we got some nice bark here. I'm gonna go to cut it in like 1/4 inch thick slices. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's looking mighty good. Oh boy, this is looking mighty good. Pretty happy with it. Get your hands out of there. It's the problem with having a producer. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Hang on. Hang on. Oh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, God. This brick is just for me. So now we're going to shift it around and we're going to cut the point. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Oh, my goodness. Look at this. The juice come out of that guy. Oh. I'll take the last bit off the point. Look at that. Perfect. So, thanks everybody for watching the video. I hope you learned a lot from this. This is our Easter dinner. And we've got a bunch of sides that are going along with this. I am pretty sure my family's going to like it, but even if they don't, I'm going to eat the whole darn thing. Thanks again, and if you like this, please share with your pals, and click subscribe. Thanks a lot. Take care.